Hi, my name is Gabrielle Burton, licensed marriage and family therapist intern,
And I'm Jacinth Lamala, licensed marriage and family therapist.
and we are your hosts of the
The
Wealthiness of Healthiness
Healthiness
Show. Every week we come to you with content to hopefully increase your mental health journey.
We've been in school a long time. We're out of school now, but all this information we want to be able to share with everyone that we know. So you're lucky. You get the benefit.
Yes. We get the student loan payments. You guys get the free information. You are welcome.
Oh, God.
So this month, it's actually
National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, October.
And so this video, we are actually going to be talking about what domestic violence is, and we're in a series, and so the next couple of videos we're going to be giving you some tips and tricks on how to spot what domestic violence looks like and how to help yourself if you're in that situation or a loved one. So we're going to start out by defining domestic violence as it is defined by National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. So on their website, this is how they define domestic violence. It is the willful intimidation, physical assault, battery, sexual assault, and or other abusive behavior towards someone in the relationship. It can often include physical violence, sexual violence, threats, and emotional or psychological abuse, and it is often the pattern of power and control perpetuated from one partner to the other. The severity and the frequency of these types of interactions can vary from relationship to relationship.
Yeah, it's wild. In the United States, actually, on average, 20 people experience intimate partner physical violence a minute. So that averages out to about 10 million at least annually, and so that's a really big number. And that's just what's reported.
Yeah, a lot of times this isn't reported because of the shame, the control, right? We talked about there is a huge element of power and control in these types of relationships, and oftentimes a relationship, when it escalates to violence, a lot of times it doesn't start off that way. And so I think that that's what's difficult for a lot of people who are in these relationships, because if, let's say, this partner that they've been with, they've known him for a really long time, and then all of a sudden their partner hits them, they're like, oh, well, that's completely out of character for them. I should have never made them mad. It was all my fault. They said they will change. And so oftentimes there is this kind of this hope that that was just a one-time, one and done type of situation. But if you stay and kind of allow that behavior, chances are that type of behavior will continue and could escalate.
Yeah, I think it's really hard because there's so many layers to how couples find themselves in these positions.
Yeah.
And so we can't assume, it's not something that happens off the bat. It could be years.
Yeah. For sure.
Until there's a violence and introduced into the relationship, and before that is maybe, a lot of like the power and control that's occurring, and I don't want to say in preparation, but preceding any violence. And so for us to not be judgmental about, how people find themselves in these situations, and kind of put ourselves in someone's place as far as how challenging it could be to try to leave, because it's really dangerous, to leave.
Yeah.
And depending on the situation, someone may not have the resources or support even to feel like that they're able to do that, like it's an option for them.
Absolutely. That is that part is so important. And oftentimes it takes victims on average of 7 times to leave before they are finally successful. And the most lethal time for a victim to leave the relationship, or the most lethal time for someone in a relationship like that, is when they do choose to leave. Because if it is a violent type of relationship, the person that is in control is going to be extremely angry. And so when they don't feel like they have that control, they a lot of times could get really, really violent and really dangerous. And so oftentimes, and this is not something that is true 100% across the board, but this is something that there is a lot of like evidence that shows that a lot of times people who find themselves in these types of relationships, a lot of times they've actually experienced some type of childhood abuse. And so if the parents were abusive to them as a kiddo, or they experienced neglect, So a lot of times they could find themselves in relationships like that as adults, because they feel like, well, my parents abused me and hit me, and so that's what love looks like. And so it's very common for them to feel a familiarity when they're with a partner that is also exhibiting those types of behaviors in a relationship.
It can often be an ongoing pattern,
right,
and a cycle. And not only those who are abused experience abuse in childhood. A lot of times those who are abusers have often experienced abuse in childhood as well. So unfortunately it's on both ends. There's no justification for that, but just knowing what contributes to that being something that plays a role in people's lives and relationships. And so childhood abuse is a huge factor and role to play in this. And you know, maybe the more that we're able to work on that and diminish that in our kids' experiences, then that we'll have more healthy adults and healthy relationships. And speaking of cycles, I know you know, there's a cycle of how abuse exists, and you want to start?
You can start.
So number one, right, like tension building. So this might be, to me, this is like death by a thousand cuts, like little things that occur over and over again that kind of make it more challenging to interact with each other throughout the day, and be able to get over those little humps.
Absolutely.
The second one being an incident. So the tension builds, right? You boil water on the pot, the water starts to boil over. This is when an incident actually occurs. And so this might be someone wanting to leave the house or need a timeout or a break because you're in a fight, but the idea of you leaving agitates your partner to the point that they put their hands on you. If they're trying to keep you from leaving, they might be blocking or, you know, hit you in order for you not to leave the house. Or this might be, you know, you did something wrong in the house, perceived to have done something wrong, that a partner then escalates to physical harm against you. The third part.
The third one is reconciliation. And so, you know, after the blowout happened, there oftentimes is, you know, the abuser apologizing and saying, oh, it'll never happen again. But also in this time, a lot of times the abuser is saying, but, you know, you made me do this. And so if you would have just done the thing, I wouldn't have had to put my hands on you. And so oftentimes the victim will then take the blame on and realize, like, wow, I shouldn't have done that. I'll do better next time. And so there's that reconciliation. And then the fourth part of the cycle is the calm. And that's kind of where the incident is forgotten. And we often call this phase the honeymoon phase, where everything is good, and you know, you guys are feeling like you're back to normal, and you kind of just forget all about what the abuser is capable of, because you're back in that honeymoon phase. And what we talked about earlier, why sometimes it's really hard for someone to identify an abusive relationship or domestic violence in the relationship is because, again, these types of things may not necessarily happen on a daily basis. It varies from, you know, relationship to relationship, but maybe you go 6 months and there is no physical violence at all, and it's perfectly fine, or there's no sexual violence, and that is something that happens in relationships and in marriages and things. But maybe, you know, you haven't experienced that in a really long time, and then it happens once, and then, you know, they apologize, and then you forget about it. But one time is too many,
right? When
you've been violated in that way and you've been treated in that way, and so if you feel uncomfortable with how you've been treated in that relationship, or if you know someone that shared that with you, one time is too many.
And it's not necessarily a death sentence, but something has to happen. Something has to change. So if that means, obviously, with a safety plan and support in the right way, or in the safest way, there's no right way, but in the safest way possible, to remove yourself from the situation, or, you know, for you and your partner to be able to get the help that you need to have a healthier relationship. So there are couples that, you know, stay together and they get the right help to help them kind of no longer have that be something that happens in their relationship.
Absolutely.
Once is too much, but that doesn't mean that you have to not be in that relationship. It would mean that something has to change. Like, everyone needs to get help in this situation, but oftentimes it does mean that maybe you need to leave the relationship in the safest way possible. And that's why there's a lot of resources out there.
Well, we hope this was a helpful video for you. We know that talking about domestic violence isn't the easiest topic or the most comfortable topic to talk about, but it is absolutely necessary and important that we do talk about it. And so we hope that you would continue to watch this series, because we are going to continue to give out tips and tricks on how to identify, spot domestic violence, either in your relationship or in a friend's, and how to help and support yourself and others. And so we really hope that you would stick along for the information to come.
See you next time.